All right. So for today's session, we're going to talk about the Stuck Trader Tracker. That's not what we call it, but that's what I'm calling for today. It's the hourly meter that I'm going to show you on the OPP, and then something that we changed out on the far right vertical. So, Dave, you want to show your screen?
You
And I,
bet.
and then
find it.
I'll just show the two things that were changed or tweaked, and Dave will go over the specifics. All right.
Do you have me now?
I have you now. Just give me a second so I could change you out. Get you over there to over here and blow you up. Okay. So what Dave is showing, and I'm able to draw on his screen. What we're going to talk about today is that and these red and or green bars that come in the middle of the footprint. We used to have the delta in here for the day, aggressive buyers minus aggressive sellers, because I used the delta profile in the past to give me a sense of where people were long or short. So it hit me, why would I do that when we actually have the longs and shorts? So Dave changed out the delta and put in actual long and short positions for the last 15 and a half hours. And why 15 and a half hours? Because at 8:30 Central in the morning when we open, 15 and a half hours is the overnight session. Unless my math is off. So 5 p.m. Central is when Globex opens, and at 8:30 is the end of the overnight. So essentially, right at 8:30, we could see the overnight session stuck long or stuck short and where. All right. And then we could keep track of it at the bottom. I don't want to get into specifics of how to use it because that's day to day in the room, but how it's created is I'll kick it over to you, Dave.
Yes, so we just extended the time. So we've had the 1 hour indicator here for, well, quite a while. And all I did with this one was extend it out to 15 and a half. As Anthony says, the numbers at the bottom are different. On the one on the left, it's showing the largest position, or sorry, the largest bar that we're tracking, either short or long. But on this longer term position tracker, it's actually the total that are stuck. So right now we're tracking 1,092 contracts that are stuck short and 212 contracts that are stuck long. And so as the price moves, every time the price updates, it'll change that number based on moving across the positions. That makes sense?
To me, yes. And real quick, if when I record, something prompts and says I'm recording, you could shut that. You could close that yourself. If you hit continue or whatever.
Yep.
If there's a banner.
I can.
You don't see it, others might, but go ahead.
And so that's the difference. And so we can scroll up and down the bar and see if there's big positions one way or the other. We'll just see where they are up and down here. And so it's early days with it, watching it this long a term. In the hour, we've been using the hour period for a while. I've updated the NQ period to 15 minutes because the NQ is so noisy. It seems to help to get some of the noise off the screen. But that's what it is. And so where we're looking at, that many guys stuck short, well, maybe we'll go higher. Well, most probably we will get that kind of stuck short. Although we did see a bunch of guys puke right at the top of that. That's some pretty good sized pukes up there at between 18 quarter and 20.
Yeah. So question really quick. When I say 15 and a half hours, it's a running 15 and a half hours. So at 8:30 Central, at that moment, it's the entire overnight session. That's not the case now. It's the last 15 and a half hours, which is
correct.
Yeah, as we move on, but it's still showing us obviously most of the session at that point. And then everybody should document what these numbers are. To me, at the bottom, let me draw it up here. These numbers here at the bottom, and write them up with respect how much volume you have at that point, because these numbers are going to look different with what the overnight volume is. If the overnight volume and the day session volume is much bigger, then those numbers that I just drew an arrow to are going to be bigger. So you want to pull a percentage and get a relative idea of how big that number is. And we're just now playing with it, but it's real longs and real shorts that at 8:30 Central would have incorporated the entire Globex session. And at this point, you could see that, and I wrote down at 8:30, they were net short 375. So since the open, they're net short 750. And I did the math in front of everyone. So that's pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned. Any other questions?
And if they're busily, as they busily short it some more, it just gets more and more stuck. I bet there have been a number of people that have been shorting and probably adding to shorts on the way up. So they're smarting.
Yeah. So indeed, someone says, so it's a rolling 15 and a half hours. Yes.
Yep.
Rolling 15 and a half. Did you get into, because I was answering someone's question and I didn't hear your first part, what you started saying. Did you get into how it's only telling the stuck longs and stuck shorts?
I did.
Okay. And so that's important. It seems like it might be complex, but it's not. It's only longs from, if price is here, okay, and there's a long up here, he'd go in the pile of being, in the equation against the short who is down in here. So if price is here, these longs and anybody long up there would be considered stuck, right? And these shorts below price would be considered stuck, correct? So the difference between the two is this number right in here, right, Dave?
That is on the 8-hour base, or sorry, on the 1 hour.
Yeah. So running 1 hour is the concept of stuck longs minus stuck shorts. Not all the longs minus all the shorts, just the stuck ones. That's the difference. And it's much more timely as we've tested it than the other version. So everybody understand that.
And so the screen, just so you know, this while the screen doesn't update with every single tick, the calculation that's doing this actually updates with every tick, every trade. It updates the values. And then just every so often, I think it's 200 milliseconds, it shows up and updates the screen, but it's a continuous calculation.
So think about that. As price moves up, there's less longs that would be considered stuck. All right. So then this number would change accordingly if price moves up. Let's say there's a big long right there. Right now, he'd be computed in this number because he's stuck. If price gets above it, he would come out of it and it would affect that number because he's no longer stuck. It would be a bigger red number because less longs are stuck. Does that make sense? And that's what we're after. We're after those that are feeling pain. Use pain as another way to say stuck. Traders who are feeling pain. So it should make sense that in our number down there, you're going to have when and if we're at the high of a session, okay? High of a session, there will be essentially 0 people stuck long because we're at the high of the session. There could be some as they buy the high and we tick lower, and everybody who is short at the high of a session is stuck because you couldn't have shorted any higher. We hadn't traded that much. So you can get like your maximum short and long. And this information is going to give us not only good real-time stuff, but be able to also go and say what's a good max, what generally is too long or too short. What do I mean by that? Well, if a market goes up and there's 1,000 people short, it just doesn't have any more people willing to get short. It's as short as it's going to get. Generally, that's a near-term top. If that 1,000 is the number, we don't know yet. But that's the point. This isn't Delta stuff anymore because Delta is, while it's an accurate, maybe assumption at times of people who are long and short, why not go right to the actual long or shorts? Let me ask this question for you, Dave. Longs rolling off. The 15.5 hour cutoff will also be rolling off, right?
Correct.
Yes. Any other questions?
It's pretty straightforward. You've
Yeah.
been looking at it for a while, and it's quite straightforward.
Yeah, it's
I
just
think
different.
you'll like the 15-minute, by the way, and the switch on the NQ, the 15-minute. I think that'll be
Now, did you
much
say you
better.
did the switch in the IQ or not yet?
I did the switch in the NQ,
Got it.
and so it's much less noisy than it has been in the past. I've been running on mine on 15 minutes for quite a while, and I like it quite a bit better.
What's on the schedule? Did we talk about testing a 15-minute in the ES, or is that seem?
I looked at a 15-minute in the ES and I didn't like it. I found the 60-minute in the ES much better than the 15.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That
I
makes
mean,
sense.
it's from a trading perspective, the ES doesn't trade as many prices. It's not as manic. So there's not as much noise that you're trying to get rid of. I mean, most of the trades that show up there have actual information in them, as opposed to some of the scattershot stuff that happens in the NQ that, what happened 30 minutes ago. Do you care?
So if you just do the math at 3 o'clock Central, you there's six essentially and a half hours of trading, right? 6.5 hours of trading. So that's like you don't have any of the action in the overnight session from 5 p.m. until what would that be? 4, 5, 6, 11:30. That's what
Doing the
would
math
drop
real
off
quick.
at.
Yeah, 11:30. That's right. And so
That's what would go ahead.
you'll still have the European session in there. You get the European Open in it. You'll lose the pack rim session, but you'll have the Europeans in there.
Yeah. So you start losing the people who might have entered in the early Globex session as we roll along through today's session. And so at our close, roughly 3:15, you still have people who got long after 11:30 Central PM. And like Dave said, for all the European session, which doesn't start till 1 a.m., they're cash open. Can there be tweaks done and we start looking at just the open longs from the from the beginning of the session? There's a lot of things that could be done, but one thing at a time, so it doesn't get too messy and you get too much data.
And we've also done the long short. Remember, we switched to the stuck numbers on these totals. It's now just looking at stuck long, stuck short on the hourly basis as well. So if there's a short that's profitable, it's not in this number anymore.
Yeah, that goes to the equation I illustrated.
Yep. But
That's why it's
but
going to be
just to
less.
make the point, it's happening on all of them now, not just the new one.
And you have to know that equation. It's not enough to go over it even twice or three times. You have to understand, if you take all the longs and minus all the shorts, that's one number. But if you take stuck longs, subtract stuck shorts, that's another number. And Dave is doing the math on the fly with, if price is above a short, he's stuck. He gets added to the equation. If it's below a long, he would qualify to get added to the equation. The painful longs and shorts. And so he didn't just put this in and say, let's check it out. He watched it. He sent me recordings of watching it. And we both said, let's do it. This is more timely of information than, because a lot of times the red bar would be red to show you shorts after it rallied. or would go green too much after it broke. And you're going to see more turns and more timeliness as you watch this in the hourly bar. Now let's go to some questions. Can we relate bid over ask? Bids equal potential longs, sellers. No, that would get too noisy in that to do that. Too much, there's too much guessing, number one, because when someone's bidding in a market, they could potentially be getting long, but they could potentially cover a short.
I wrote a analysis that looked at order rate and how many orders above and below and did a bunch of different permutations with that, and I never found anything that produced anything that was consistently reliable. It would work every once in a while, 10%, 15%, but then the other 85, 90% destroys all the profits you got on the 10. So I abandoned that idea.
Yeah, I mean, if the only kind of thought I've had that I've beaten through my head back and forth, it's almost like how to analyze existing, like, resting orders. Let's just say resting orders. What's the value of resting orders? You just got to remember, everybody could see resting orders way above and way below. It's something that's there, and they might be real, they might not be. If it's way above the market, you know, there might not be real by the time it gets there. So, and everybody sees that, right? Everybody sees what's in the book. There's no value in that. To me, it's the players that are close to where the market is right now. Those are guys that are obviously putting in bids and offers and are serious, or they wouldn't put in bids and offers close to the market, right? Because they can get filled. So chances are, when you put in a bid or offer within one or two ticks of where the price is trading, you're serious. You might cancel it, but you're obviously not going to play games because you're close to getting filled. So to me, it's the thought of who takes longer, who's taking longer to get filled with new orders. But it's something that I haven't even went to Dave with. It's just a tennis match in my head to come up with why that would be important and how it would show us something that would allow us to predict what could happen next instead of it going with it. The one problem with Delta and anything that you use to try to predict, it's either lagging or it goes together. So if a price goes up along with the whatever indicator you're using, there's no value. It's going together. So you're going to have to do it like one goes up and the other one doesn't go up. That might provide a clue. And that was the way to use Delta properly. So, but you want something like when you're getting a line to spike up, then price is probably going to then lag. You want price to lag, not the other way around. If price leads, well, what the hell? You're trading price. How, if you're predicting the indicator, great. You could use price and then buy the indicator, sell the indicator, you make money. But indicator, whatever you're looking at, has to give a little bit of a lead time into a probability of where we're going to go up or down. And now everybody sees the value in knowing where people are long and short because of the other side component of what they have to do. But like the aging of orders is what I kind of thought of it as being. How old are orders getting that are real deal orders, not this BS 10, 20 ticks away? People that want to buy it, want to sell it, are those are going to be coming close to the market. Who's taking longer to get filled and who's ready to say, screw it, let me just be aggressive. But that's for another day and another time. It might not even happen, but it's going to what matters in order flow than any of the other nonsense that people try to use. Another question, Dave. So, what does the number at the end of the quarterly bar represent now? Same thing. All right. Same thing, only instead of all the longs minus all the shorts, it's stuck longs minus stuck shorts. Correct, Dave?
That's correct. Just trying to see how many guys are on the wrong side.
And how he comes to that conclusion is if price is above a short, he'd get thrown into the pile to be computed. Price is below a long, he'd be thrown in the pile to get computed and taken out as price moves around that particular open position.
Yeah, because if I still had my 56s, yeah, I'd be long, but I sure wouldn't be stuck.
So here's a good question from Michael regarding the hourly meter. All right, that's this red line in the footprint or green line in the footprint. This is still net long, net short of the market for the running hour. Yes, but net stuck longs and net stuck shorts. Is that the right way to explain that, Dave?
Correct.
Not all the longs minus all the shorts. It's all the longs that are stuck minus all the shorts that are stuck. So if it's net short, like it is now, these are not just a lot more shorts than longs that are stuck, but it's only the stuck shorts. Let me give you an example. If a short, when the market goes up here, if a short comes in and the price is below it, it would not be included in the red line. A short above price would not be included. He's not stuck.
Because he's happy. He's not stuck.
He's a happy guy.
Happy guy.
That's right.
As soon as price crosses over him and he's not happy anymore, well, it shows up.
So all these longs would start showing up because price is below it. So this red line would start to decrease or increase, essentially, technically, we get closer to zero. Don't overthink it because it took me a second, but I was reading it when Dave and I were going back and forth. But once it clicked, it clicks. It's just a different way, to qualify is a good word. We're qualifying the guy's position.
Well, and you've been using it, so it's just a more accurate version of what you've been using. It's the number that's represented as people that are actually short, where previously we were looking at net longs versus net shorts in total instead of the guys who were stuck. So you treat it the same way. It's just more accurate than it was before.
You'll see it changing in more real time at pivots or turns than before. That's why we went with it. Yeah, more accurate, better qualifier. So the follow-up question, so the vertical line, which vertical line? Are we talking about the same thing here? The hourly meter vertical line, or are we talking about the far right vertical line? Let me just make sure when I answer this question. This vertical line, Michael? All right. And all right. So the question about that vertical line, Dave, is it's still is this still the raw orders entering long and short coming into the market? That's my answer. Yes, right, Dave?
I'm trying to scroll to the question. Which one is
Michael
it?
S.
All right, that's
Michael
up a little
C.
bit.
1128. The second.
It is all right. So the bar itself, that profile, everything, it shows longs and shorts. The number that's on this vertical bar is stuck longs minus stuck shorts.
Yeah.
But all the longs and shorts are still represented here. It's just the math. The math is different, where it's now stuck longs versus stuck shorts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is the answer. All and Dave answered it. Yes, this is all still the longs and shorts and where they're long and short from inside this first vertical. Indeed. That didn't change. In other words, that didn't change at all. This vertical did not change. This middle vertical did not change. This right vertical did change. It changed the most because it changed from showing delta on the day to now showing the last 15 and a half hours. Yeah.
And you didn't mark it, but it's the one he's talking about. It's right here. There you go.
That's the one that changed the most because we pulled out the delta and put in, we essentially put in this bar, but instead of just for an hour, it's taking the whole day or 15 and a half hours.
And we do the stuck, the totals,
right.
the stuck shorts, and the total stuck shorts and total stuck longs. And then you have to do the math between them, but there's not much math to figure out. There's a ton more stuck shorts than stuck longs right now. And given the price action, that shouldn't be a surprise.
And that's a great way to say it. This is if you put a red line or green line, it's the same thing as this red line, only for 15 and a half hours, not 1 hour. Because it's stuck long, stuck shorts, but not to complicate it. Just understand that this is longs and shorts for 15, last 15 and a half rolling hours. And the number at the bottom is showing you if you took all the stuck shorts and subtracted all the stuck longs. Not if you took that, you have to do that math. But if you could see how it's zero when we're on the high, that means there's obviously no stuck longs because every long is long below and is a winner, except one guy. That's probably Carl.
So somebody just bought the top. He'll be stuck in a minute. We'll let trade back down.
Everybody who's short is stuck when you're on the high tick of the day.
Yep. Oh, that's right. So he just ticked up and now he's not stuck anymore.
Yeah. Nobody in our sample size stuck long yet. And it makes sense because we're ticking the high of the day. So you actually would have to have someone open long at 20 and tick down at 1975. 3 people did that. 5 people did that. Stuck, not just total in here. This guy is total, and at the price they're long or short. And then this red in the hourly is the math. Stuck longs minus stuck shorts equals this number, the bottom of our red line. Let's go back to a couple questions. So there could be both stuck longs and stuck shorts, and the number is just the net of the two. Well, there's always stuck longs and stuck shorts.
So the number's trying to tell you, are there more stuck longs or more stuck shorts?
There's always stuck longs or shorts, except in these examples right here when you're ticking the high of the day. For a moment in time, there won't be stuck longs. But other than that, there's always people stuck. It's just like Dave said, what's the difference? And is there an imbalance of the two? There you go. You answered your own question, Christine. Exactly. Why you wouldn't want to go short with a lot of other stuck shorts is because they're doing what you're going to do if you get short, and that is then try to buy it. You're competing with them. If you see a lot of people running, all right, and when they're running, they disappear over a cliff screaming, I don't want to run down that path. If I see a lot of human traps like a mouse trap and humans getting trap, I'm not going to eat the cheese from the next fresh trap. I'm going to say, these people are all stuck. All right, let's see any other questions we got.
Yeah, Raj's question, and then I'd like to hear your answer, and then I'll pile on too.
It says aft, and it's a 1 hour, the bottom left vertical with the regular and green bars off it. Yes, the first left vertical, Ed. Yes, this is didn't change. First left vertical did not change. I'd rather get into that, Michael, in another session. I just want people to know what everything is looking like. And so the question is what my eyes follow. Well, couple things, Raj. Here's the question. It's going. So stuck shorts at the high of day will increase as price moves higher. How to predict when it will turn down? Couple things. Now, as we see what that number could be, and when it gets too high, almost like we've reached the amount of people willing to get short and it's no longer increasing, that could predict a turn. The other thing is, not just looking at stuck shorts, but also seeing longs get stuck up there, starting to buy it. Longs finally trying to pick a top, or not pick a top, but trying to buy the high in momentum or whatever. So it's not just looking at stuck shorts, but it's also including potential stuck longs that could get in there to predict the turn. But as you watch this thing, you, I, yesterday, and I texted Dave every time it got stuck long 800, we couldn't go down anymore. And today it was around 1100 or 1200. A couple times where it was tough to continue to go up. Everybody willing to get stuck or everybody willing to be short on a move up is short. How would you, what would you add to that, Dave?
Well, I'm going to add a couple extra complications to this. So I'm going to scroll this up. Let's see. Where did that go? My screen is scaled slightly differently. So here is, this is the 13s. So in this world, it's right here. And so you look at the correlated markets, what the correlated market guy did, the Russell went down a long way, the NQ went down a ways, and it's just sitting here doing this. And while this is going on, if you see a bunch of new shorts coming in right there, that's like an ideal time to go buy it, because you've had this overshoot that said when this market goes down like that and this market goes down like this, that's showing you that the ES is stronger than the two correlated markets. Then it goes in here and does its little deal, and somewhere in here, if we were to play this back, there would have been a bunch of shorts coming in deciding they were going to try to get it to go, and that's the time for me. Did that make sense before I moved the screen back?
To me, absolutely. I'd give you the golf clap.
Now at the top of this, seeing a bunch of longs coming in. If you want to turn around, if you're trying to get short, you want to see a bunch of longs come in at the top of this. But in a day like today, I'm going to want to see a bunch of longs come in and do the correlated markets go up and then have it drop and then consolidate again. I'm going to want to see it do at least twice before I think about going. Peter had a short earlier that was a good one, but it was pretty short lived because it just rallied again. Right. And he made some good bank on it, but it just rallied again. So on a day like today, I'm not in a big hurry to get short.
You see some shorts puke also. Let's say, and that's smart. You're waiting for it to show like a failure and then have it do that in that kind of pattern. Instead of that, you're not looking to pick that. You're looking to pick this, which is smart. Or you're just more patient. Now, if you're good at timing it, either way, the problem with this is it's just there's more risk to it. You still have to be good timing either one. It's just if you want more out of it, you probably got to wait for this at a time to show you that people are still getting stuck. But let's just say you wanted this. You wanted it to go up and come back down and pick a high. Not the high of the day, but enough to really say I caught near the top, okay? You like to see shorts puke, which would come in here, okay? Big red bar. that would show up on the 8 hour up here at the top as pretty significant. Okay. And you are getting some stuck longs that are pretty significant.
Sorry, Anthony, to redraw your bar. I brought it down. I had it kind of off scale high there.
No, that's okay. But I always, when I see shorts or longs puke in here, which is, this hasn't changed, this bar. And this bar, by the way, hasn't changed. So this bar is the shorts and longs that puke on 3 minutes and then it goes away. I automatically look up here and say, well, relative to 8 hours, is it something significant? Because here in the 8 hours, where the longs and shorts puke stay is up for 8 hours. And I don't know where this came in. I want to say it probably came in over here when it called the top, but maybe it didn't. Maybe it came in here and didn't call the top because you had so many additional other shorts that were coming in. So the first thing I look at when a long, short, or a long pukes or short pukes is how big was it? And then was it refilled by new longs or shorts, right, in this line? Again, I don't want to go too deep. I wanted this to be more of a tutorial on what changed and the math behind it, how to use it. And we've done videos on it. We'll continue to do videos on it. This is just a better way to see the same thing. That's my overall repeated line in helping people. There's always a better way to see the same thing, as long as the same thing is, other people's positions and following correlations. Those two things, order flow, which is other people's positions, and market relationships, with it, which is compare contrast. Same two damn things you guys do, we do every time we buy and sell something. We use one or both of those techniques. I still got to go into a car dealership with a Fibonacci chart and see what he says. Let me see if
you have to go see his manager first.
Yeah.
I got to show this to my manager. I'll be back.
Anything else? I think that's it. Don't overthink it. You guys see my drawing when I put these yellow scribbles in?
Got it now. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a couple times that I think you thought you were drawing, but you weren't. But we could see that.
Yeah. When I draw on Dave's screen, there's more of a delay and sometimes maybe a little buggy. So again, this is scaled of this. Nothing changed. This and this did not change. Puke here did not change. Here's the key. That changed along with how the hourly meter is computed. Still showing net longs and shorts, but now the ones that are stuck. And then this far right one, I think you guys are going to find very helpful when you're looking at, hey, what's the sample size of the overnight? Are they too long? Are they too short? Are they long or short in the old Globex session? And then what that number has to kind of be weighted with what, in my opinion, the overall volume is in the session up to that point. That number will typically supposed to be smaller if the volume overnight is smaller and the range is smaller. So one last thing, and it's just repeated to what Dave said, this number down here, these numbers down there are stuck longs and shorts. So there's technically 1,395 contracts stuck short and only 29 stuck long. And so why so little stuck long? Because we're at the high of the day. That's another, kind of proof that it is what this is actually showing, open longs and shorts. If it was flipped, something would be wrong.
Yeah, tough to be stuck long when the market's marching north.
Yeah. Yeah, so the length of the hourly bar means something as a visual to say that the raw number is bigger. the number at the bottom of it or top of it, if it's a green bar, is bigger. The longer the bar, the more negative or more positive it is.
And there are limits on that. Let me look real quick. I'll tell you what the limits are, where it's scaling it. So on the chart scale, it's 50 contracts per handle. So if this thing is this long, like right in here, that's one handle, that's 50 contracts. On the side, let's see, on the side over here, the max is 250. So that's how it scales.
That's the
So
red bar.
this means it's a really long, and this bar right here is the current, which will also be displayed here, but that's the current.
Hey,
So
what
250 max.
is it an easy setting change? So this bar is essentially the same as this bar.
Yeah,
Okay. Only scaled different, as you
Right.
explained. Would there be a way to put the number, like, so when it's disappeared here, but a number over here on the far right?
yeah, except I'm not sure where to put it because you think
What if you
about that number.
put it on the bottom, but made this scale so much that it'll always be a small bar? All we're interested in the number is the number.
We,
not
we
the
can
way
also rescale it to contracts per handle. Let me see what that did.
when it disappears, the number is obviously going to be the same in this bar and that bar.
Wow, that's big. I just changed it to 100 per handle, and it's pretty darn big.
You're just changing the setting to the far right one?
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? I think I changed the wrong one. There it is. Let's make this 100.
We can't make the number at the top of this red bar there because you wouldn't see it in the footprint.
Right, and so I just changed the scale to 100 contracts per handle, which might make more sense in this context. If we made it 100 contracts per handle and 500, as big of the numbers as that we've seen, this probably makes more sense. How about that?
As long as when it got to be minus 50, it wasn't so tiny, even though you'd still see the number.
Yeah, minus 50 will be 2 ticks.
No, I don't mean in what it considered for the scale, but what the size, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it'd be
got
2
it.
ticks wide. I get it. Or long.
Yeah, but you know, at minus 50 plus 50, do you really care? I mean, that's such a small difference at this point. It's like, eh.
Well, you know it's about to flip, but you know that anyways.
Right.
The number, what you're saying is irrelevant because you would know it's a small number and ready to flip. Let's leave this and see how it goes.
Yeah. That's why it's all configurable, because you never know.
Is there in the setting, without writing anything, a way to put a number at the bottom of that one?
No.
All right. Okay.
I have to write some code on that.
All right, then forget about that. We'll see how this goes. So now we're able to see most of the day where that is. That'd be good. Michael T, what do you mean? Why would you say, oh, this is a good question because this doesn't compute. This doesn't do the math down here. Could you explain where these numbers come from, Dave?
Oh, that is the largest bar on either side.
Yeah.
So 41 means the largest bar anywhere in that profile is 41 contracts. And the largest bar on the short side in that profile is 32. And somebody that 40 bar just got smaller or went away, and so now it's 30 on the long side.
So let's say this green is the longest bar and it's 30. 30 would drop down there. And let's say this red is the longest short and it's 34. It would drop down there.
Right.
It's not doing any math.
Right. It's just trying to give you an idea when you look at that, look at the profile, how many contracts you're really talking about.
This number is just stripping out the stuck players.
Right.
This number is just showing you the largest player on each side, largest open position at one particular price on each side. So don't look at that and this and try to make any kind of sense out of it. What I like it is because when we get that big order on the open that comes in, sometimes I'll get a really good idea of what it is. Now, technically, and you should understand this, if this number shows, let's say a big long comes in right here, okay, of 200, and he comes in and it shows 213 at the bottom here. It would be at the bottom of that because it's by far the longest green bar at any one price on this profile. But just because it shows 213, 13 of them could be some other longs at that price. But the 200 kicked out most of it. So it gives us an idea. It's, all the longs at that particular price. And probably 200 of them is one individual. Sometimes it would be 213. It would be the entire one person. I say 213 because 213 was the number, I think, last week. As soon as he came in, it was 213 here at the bottom, and he put a 213 lot offer above. And he was marked. Mike T, that should answer your question. Hopefully it does. So now the length of the bar still means something. It's just scaled differently. I think it's important for a visual to have the length mean something, just so you could kind of understand, hey, it's getting shorter instead of having to compare the numbers to numbers. If we just put numbers next to numbers, it wouldn't click as fast. Not even close.
Yeah, you can see in an analog display, even in peripheral vision, you can see a lot in an analog display like that. Digital's hard to read. Or at least not as quick to read. You get a lot more accurate number, but do you really care? When you're looking for scale and trend, you can see scale and trend in a bar much faster. You can watch than try to memorize the numbers.
So a suggestion, instead of 1 hour reset to net from opening bell. Down the road, yes, but I think that would not change the 1 hour. I want to see what's going on over the last 1 hour, because to me, that's keeping a tempo of what's recent.
There's a lot of pre-market stuff happens. I mean, 7:30 to 8:30 is a pretty active hour.
I like to have a relative, this is what's been going on in the last hour. Now, what's suggested is a good suggestion, but I think would require a whole nother vertical. And say, okay, guys, this is what the overnight looked like, and maybe stop it, and then start it from the opening bell. This is what the market is been doing since the opening bell. But that's a good suggestion and already one in the box that we're trying to figure out where to put it so it doesn't become too noisy and become way too much information. And the key in the suggestion was, would it be better? The keyword is better. And I think it might. I really do. Any suggestion that includes whatever math we put in, it's always the math of open longs and open shorts. Where it came from, that's important. That could be important, but it's not anymore any kind of aggressive buyer and seller or, things that the most important thing. Remember the genie metaphor. The number one wish you would want right out of the box or out of the bottle would be, can you tell me everybody's position? 100%. That would be the best indicator, because now we know for certain, like everyone, this is a great sample size, and you could see the probabilities that it's had for those that use it. The genie would have to tap into the CME servers though to be able to get us that. The back end of the back end of the back end of the CME. Be quite a genie. We've thought of that, Ron. But it ain't as easy as flipping a switch. So, Michael, I'll let Dave answer this, but I'll answer it first. The question is, why the 15-minute ES instead of the hourly of the versus the hourly of the ES? Yeah. So why the 15-minute of the ES bar to compute, or from in here instead of the rolling hour? Why wouldn't that be more useful if a trade hold time is generally 10 or 15 minutes? And my answer is because it didn't create any kind of better probability or turn, was just more noise.
That's what,
And
so the reducing the time in the NQ was to get rid of noise, because there's a ton of noise in the NQ, and the ES doesn't have that kind of noise. So I mean, like on a day like today, if you drop it at 15 minutes instead of an hour, all it's going to do is take the tail off of the profile, and it doesn't really change anything. And there, I mean, you go up and down here, there's some real info here about where guys are. And if you trade back through these guys, you're probably going to see some reaction. So, you know, I like to see the hour. I just didn't see any advantage in what I saw was in the ES in the 15-minute, the stuff that went away, I still cared about.
yeah. And not to be egotistical with an answer to this question, because it's a good question, but the reason why it might not be useful is because it wasn't useful.
And that's not to say that it wouldn't be useful to somebody else. I mean, there's all sorts of configuration
Right.
changes that, you know, everybody has a different way to interpret the data. So, I mean, that's the expansion of all this is to give people more individual control over it. And we're contemplating ways to make that happen, but it's more complicated than it sounds.
But I mean, you look at it and then you show it to me, and when we both come to the same conclusion without knowing what the other guy's conclusion is, after seeing this for all these years, it creates more complexity. And when someone, and nobody should take offense to this, but when someone is given all different kinds of levers to pull and pull and push and everything else, they all could be good and you don't use any of them, or you confuse yourself, or there's one lever that works and other times it doesn't. And the next thing you do is you never address what your number one weakness was just trying to create the identification of a good probability to get in and get out. And then you think the edges is in another different configuration. And the next thing is you could be spending 5 years trying to reconfigure configurations, and that's where the edge is, instead of using what was there in the first place.
And looking for that perfect MACD setting.
Well, I mean, that's what happens with a lot of charts and the bells and whistles. You just go down rabbit holes. So you want to, all good thoughts and good suggestions. And I'm not demeaning any of them in my answer, other than that's what we found it created noise in the ES. when we went to 15. It eliminated noise in the NASDAQ when he went to 15. It's another good way to explain it. And they're different markets, so it makes sense there would be a little difference in both. Anybody else with questions? I would grade these questions as A, not a B or C. These are A plus questions. Except Ron. I'm just joking, Ron.
Leave Ron alone.
I can make fun of Ron. He's from Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Seems to be about it. Dave, good stuff. Thanks for sharing. And we'll keep rolling along. New changes made. We'll keep doing this. And I'll get into during the room and during these sessions week to week, explaining and showing really better ways of using it and what I found to really work in certain situations on, days that are busy, days that are slower, and what numbers seem to extend too much one way or the other. So we can kind of get a sense of the rubber band stretch. But thanks again, Dave.
You bet. Talk to you later. Have a good rest of the day.
You bet. I'm going to cut the recording. Dave is sharing his screen, so I'm going to cut the recording and end the session. We'll see you guys in Discord.